How long have you been running your one-on-ones using TouchStone?
At least 2 years. It's really transformational for me.
Why do you find the one-on-one process valuable?
It's a simple, easy way to hold managers accountable and all of us accountable for having a weekly one-to-one meeting. And what's important about this weekly one-to-one meeting is that in our business, which is a people business, nothing is more important than listening to your staff. And this process makes that happen consistently and in a positive, organized fashion.
Go ahead and share your screen, John.
So let's say this morning, for example, I had a young fella named Casey Burns.
Yeah.
And he came in for his one-to-one. So I just click on Casey Burns and I go to one-on-one weekly employee check-in and I go to saved. And here is the list. Now, this young fella just started in October. This is this morning's.
Tell us what you do.
Okay.
In these
so
meetings.
every week, this form that he starts new, and he's been trained on it. He goes in, actually, this is a new guy. So every day he goes back to the saved one and he puts on Monday, he ran on sewer calls with Sean. And one thing he learned, and he learned how to unclog a clog for the first time on Tuesday. And it goes on. He worked with Jason and he learned how to replace a faucet. Wednesday, he went on a furnace with Chris and Zach. He learned how to wire a 4-wire thermostat. Thursday, he worked with 3 different people. So in this meeting, he and I just sit there and I say, wow, great. You're learning. You're really doing well, Casey. You're learning things every day. You're documenting, you're learning. That's terrific. So we just go through the whole form and I try to let him talk the whole time. I read what he said. In this one, he said, I started doing as much as I could without getting in anyone's way. I just say, man, that's fantastic. Is there any more you want to say about that? And when he's done talking, I just go to the next one. On a scale of 1 to 10, he gave himself a 9. I thanked him for giving us all that effort. Here he said, what did you do well this week? I'm not standing around doing nothing anymore. So in one of his meetings, I gave him feedback that people had complained that he stood around until he was told what to do. And in the meeting, I said, hey, don't do that. If you don't know what to do, find something to do, ask them. And he's doing that, so that's good. And he goes through question by question here and answers them all. And then he goes through his 90-day plan and what his goals are. And one of them is running the snake. He calls it a snake. It's a drain machine. And he did that. And his second goal was got told that I did well. And one of his goals was to get positive feedback from the lead technicians. And he did that. So that was fantastic. And what I do for my part is I go to my dashboard. And in my dashboard, I have a different thing, and I go to a coaching log, and right there it is. And I go and find Casey, and I have a log of so this morning, I've noted 12/5. Casey completed his one-on-one very thoughtfully and daily. Casey will get his education caught up this week. So I put a little note, just documenting that I met with Casey. And anything, if Casey told me like his dog died, I would note it in there. And that way, the next week, I could say, hey, how you doing? Getting over, I know you lost your dog last week. And it's just, I don't have to remember it. It's right there. It comes up. So this whole system is just working terrifically well. I have a work plan here called Completing the Weekly Check-in Form that Casey and I went through together. And It has simple directions. You can see the tasks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the expectations to have regular communication with each member of the team.
Was it easy for Casey to figure out how to do this?
Yes, in one sitting, I'd say 10, 15 minutes.
Did they do it on their phone, John, or did they do it on a computer when they come back to the office?
Most of our field people have an iPad.
Okay.
That they use for their work. and they do it. But we definitely do it also on the phone. And many of these people were trained on the phone because
Okay.
the young new apprentice that doesn't have an iPad yet, I'd say, hey, open your phone right now. And boom, it's the first thing I train them on. And so it's like their first day at work. And I let them know this is the key to their advancement in the company. And so I make it very clear how important it is.
So what's your turnover like, employee turnover like?
I have very low turnover. And I think this is part of that process, that everybody that works in the company meets with a manager every week and gets a chance to share what's on their mind.
Yeah,
I
it's
do
tough to
get
say.
feedback quite frequently where a plumber or a mechanical person who worked at other companies will compliment me on our company. And when I ask them, what is it we do different that makes you feel valued? And he says, I feel supported and listened to. That's very common for them to say that. So I think that this one-on-one forum is probably part of that. I've been doing Brad since 2017. Like this morning, let's see, 12:05, I met with him this morning. And all I said was had a good meeting, and that was it. Just noting that the meeting occurred.
Yeah.
But to see what he said, I go here.
Yeah.
Obviously, and I just go down to Brad here, and he would be here under saved. And here are Brad's meetings forever.
Yeah.
You can just see them all going on. And the one that counts is this one on 12/5. And here was Brad, his activities. Who'd you spend time with? Now, this is an example of somebody who's been around for 20 years and somebody who just started. You remember that last guy, we had a whole lot of stuff. Brad says everyone.
And let's also note that Brad is your son. So
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, and he doesn't work as hard. He gave himself a 7 or 8. The other guy gave a 9. He had a so-so week for billables. He didn't type it all out because I said, what does SOS mean? He said, so-so. And then he tells me what he's working on. And, he doesn't fill out nearly as much as other people. But I could give you a tip on this. I noticed everybody that works here loves the process, and they all want to do it next week. They don't want to do it today. They want to do it next week. Brad too. So when I started, I let them do that. In other words, Brad would say, oh, I'm really busy today. I'll get it caught up next week. And I would say, okay. And then next week I would get the same story and I'd go, oh, geez. So I realized now what I do and what I learned with the new employee is when they come in and they all try me, they check me, they say, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't fill out the form this week. I was so busy. When they do that, I immediately jump up out of my chair and say, no problem at all, Keyshawn. You can fill it out right now. I got other things to do. I'll come back in 10 minutes. And it's a pain because somebody's waiting in a truck for him. It's a pain for me too. But I realized short-term pain, long-term gain. And then I run around, I find other things to do, and I come back and I stick my head in the room and say, are you done, Keyshawn? And if he's not, I say, okay, I'll come back in 5. And I don't rush him. And then when it's saved, I say, okay, great, we can do this. And at the end of that meeting, I just say, hey, Keyshawn, next time, please have your form done before our meeting. It makes it much quicker. And once they realize this dude's not going away, they figure, oh, I don't want to go through that. So they all do it now. And that's the way Brad is. Brad realizes I'm not going away. Might as well fill the form out.
That is such a cool story, John.
Yeah. So, and then one other thing I learned was they also try to fill it out by only filling out like one box. So if they do that, like if they fill out who did you spend time with and they stick a word in and then they just don't do hardly anything else, I do the same thing. I say, oh, and actually in the work plan, I say, if you don't have anything to say about a particular question, please type in the word none for that question, which forces them to answer every question. And they figure, well, if I got to answer it, I might as well put something in there. So it forces their hand. And then, so it really has worked out well. Okay, I'm done. I'm really excited about the one-to-one because for TouchStone, that is like an example of how, how it can work best for one-to-one meetings, for consistency, for ease of me to look through and see what everybody's doing. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
It is great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me and
I'm glad.
and everybody else, because everybody else gets to take advantage of, low employee turnover and
Right.
increased job satisfaction. When you're appreciating and recognizing, and you have a high level of satisfaction of employees in your company, you actually have a 43% efficiency boost. You're actually getting 43% more from your employees because you're paying attention to them and
Wow.
working with them. 43% boost. This was a study done by the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley. That's one reason why you're getting low employee turnover. That's one reason why you guys are doing well. It's one reason why, it's so important. It's so simple. Anyway, thanks, John. All righty.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, Michael.
Okay.
Talk to you
Bye-bye.
again. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.